Greetings, my fellow gamers. This is iWraith King, and welcome back to Seven Nights. It's been a while since I've actually checked out Seven Nights, and apparently Karma has been awakened. Isn't that great? I mean, I can awaken Karma, but we're not gonna do it right yet. I want to take a look and see how powerful he really is right now. He should be decent. He was pretty decent in the Korean version when he was released, but who knows, maybe they made him a little bit more powerful here because he kind of didn't do anything to the meta when he was awakened in the Korean version. In fact, I don't really think he did anything.
The path to enlightenment is in your heart.
Anything at all, really, even though he had some really interesting synergies with him. I just don't really think he made his way into the meta. Sure, people used him, but he just didn't do much. He didn't supply any great meta teams that involved him. He kind of just was there. He was okay, is what I'm trying to say. But hopefully he's a little bit more interesting now. Cultivate 60% of the damage received. Become immune to awakening gauge decrease. Ooh. Increases debuff resist rate by 50%. Increases debuff cast rate of all allies by 20%, increases the block rate of all allies by 80%. That passive sounds like a lot, but it's not a whole bunch. It's not. It does a lot of things that aren't too interesting. The cultivating 60% of damage received does make him a pretty interesting tank, but the awakening gauge thing might not be all that useful unless he can constantly cast it. That's something that might be very, very useful for him, is if his awakening skill is something he can cast again and again, kind of like Sylvester. That's very useful for heroes like that. But if he doesn't do that, it's kind of okay, because an awakening skill, as you guys know, is single use for most heroes. So hopefully it might be something a little more consistent with his awakening skill, but alright. His first active ability inflicts 2,500 fixed damage on all enemies 2 times. Launches chain attack when a target is dead. Now this wasn't too different from the way it was in the Korean version. I believe it didn't do fixed damage more than it did a certain percentage of damage. I cannot remember what it is off the top of my head, but I believe it did not do fixed damage. That might be a little bit more new. So the fixed damage thing, it kind of just means it's something that can't exactly be blocked. It can't be reduced by defense. It's always going to be that amount. So it would be pretty solid useful against tanks and high health heroes like that. But since it's fixed damage, you cannot increase it or decrease it. There's nothing you can really, there's nothing you can do to add on to it. So it's okay, really. But in all, that would be a pretty interesting attack, because as I said before, against tanks, that might be pretty useful because it does that fixed amount of damage. But alright, as for his second active ability, this inflicts 110% magic damage on 4 enemies 2 times. Reduces the enemy's buff rotation by 3 turns. Decreases the target's charged awakening gauge by a fixed amount. Has a chance to bleed the enemies. So that awakening gauge reducing thing is actually pretty decent. I mean, it's useless against him, but it's still a pretty good effect, because awakening gauges might be single use, but there's still pretty deadly attacks that you want not to happen. You want to kill the enemy before it uses its awakening skill. Now, there are going to be some extremely powerful awakening skills a little bit farther in the game, as you guys know, but right now this is a pretty solid effect for most heroes to have, because it slows the fight down and allows you to actually use your awakening skill before the opponent does, and that is a very, very good thing. Let's take a look at his awakening skill. Fully recovers his HP. Attack skill will be powered up. Bleeds all enemies 5 times. Huh. That is pretty interesting. If all of his abilities change, because it says attack skill will be improved, And it looks like there is a spelling error there. It's really, really messed up if I can notice it. Because my spelling isn't any better, my fellow gamers. But bleeds all the enemies 5 times. What this means is when he activates his ability, either one of his skills or all of them will be improved, and he bleeds all of the enemies. He activates the bleed status effect on everybody 5 times. I'm not sure how much that does, what percentage of his magic attack that is. It deals every turn, I'm not sure about that, but he does bleed all the enemies. Now there's probably a lot more to that in his awakening skill. If he does transform, if that's what that does, if he just bleeds everybody. And what else does it do? And it just improves some of his attacks. That would be kind of boring. Hopefully he does transform into something interesting. But alright, as for his awakened item, can't forget that. At stage 1, Redemption of Enlightenment, that's his first active ability, recovers up to 2000 HP for all allies. Now, I'm not sure whether that's fixed or that is something that you can increase because it says up to 2000 HP for all allies. I'm guessing maybe it's not fixed because I'm not really used to that keyword, up to. In Seven Knights, that's something I'm not really used to hearing. It's either by a certain percentage of their physical attack or magic attack, or it's a fixed amount. So it just says up to 2000 HP. So maybe that's just the maximum you can heal. Maybe he heals like 1000 when you make the first cast, and if it kills somebody again, he heals another 1000. That's 2000 HP. Maybe that's what it means, but I'm not really sure. Yeah, that's kind of weird to me. But anyway, at stage 2, I really have to test that out though, for real. That's something I'm gonna have to take a look at. At stage 2, lethal rate is increased by 20%. That's alright. At stage 3 though, his awakening skill, I'm not gonna try to pronounce that name. Nope. Light of something. I'm bad with names, you guys know. You guys should know by now. Anyway, all allies become immune to all damage 3 times. Now, taking a look at his passive ability again, the fact that he does increase block rate by 80%, that is a pretty high amount. That kind of just means he's an extremely powerful tank if he's built correctly. So, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. This passive might seem a little... it doesn't seem all that interesting, like block rate, debuff cast rate. It seems alright, but I can imagine him being pretty useful for a death meta team now that I take a good look at him, because debuff cast rate is pretty important for death CC teams. And there are already a decent amount of universal characters on that team, so increasing block rate for a team full of universals is pretty devastating, because you pretty much turn everybody into a tank, even though that is not what they are at all. So that is actually pretty powerful for the Death CC team. Even though he does not have any death on his attacks, everything here is very, very powerful for a Death CC team. Not only does he slow the game down, because he does have abilities that reduce awakening gauges, and that is something Death CC teams really, really need, is the ability to slow the fight down, and that's something he's good at. He is a perfect hero for Death CC teams. Absolutely perfect, so I'm gonna throw him on mine. But anyway, he seems to be a pretty great hero so far. I can imagine him being pretty powerful. But we're gonna take a look at what happens when he uses his awakening skill first, because if he transforms, all of his skills change, so I have to take a look at those again.
Witness the light of Nirvana that will enlighten you. With the light of Nirvana.
Oh, he does transform! Oh. I mean, not too much has really changed here on his appearance, but, you know, I'm gonna stop complaining. I'm just gonna stop complaining. Maybe it'll change something a little bit in the future. But yeah, I really do like this. This is way different than what it used to be. On the old Korean version, he just used a skill. It was just a simple skill. It didn't really do too much besides just a little bit of damage. But there's something completely new here, and I have a feeling these animations are even different. Before we take a look at them, let's read what they actually do. What this does now is he inflicts 2,500 fixed damage on all enemies 2 times, launches a chain attack when target is dead, explodes the target, and explodes the target's bleed effect. Wait, what? But what exactly does that do, though? When it explodes the target's bleed effect, does it just deal bonus damage, or does it inflict another status effect? Like, what exactly does explode do? Does it deal damage to their neighbors and them? Because that would be pretty interesting. But, I don't know. I guess we'll have to test that out. Annihilating Tempest. Wow, I actually said that right. Inflicts 110% magic damage on 4 enemies 2 times. Reduces the enemy's buff rotation by 3 turns. Decreases the target's charged awakening gauge by a fixed amount. Causes targets to bleed for 5 times. So, bleed is a theme with this version of Karma. Maybe there's a lot more to it. And of course, I know he explodes the effect with this, but I don't really know what explode does. Does it just deal bonus damage? If so, how much bonus damage? Like what is that? I can't really take a look at it. I guess I have to test it out later. But alright, let's see what the animation looks like. Thank you, devs. Global devs, thank you. Because the Korean version did nothing with Karma's animations, but you did. Thank you. That is a complete upgrade from his original animation. Explosion looks bigger, it looks more fiery, it looks more effective. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of calamity!
Nothing too much looks different there, but it does look different, so thank you, devs. Now, for his...
Is in your heart.
What's in my heart, Karma? Are you telling me there's something I should be worried about? Should I go to a doctor or something? Is it serious? Is it like a bug, or what's going on, Karma? Are you just gonna be quiet? You're just gonna leave me in the dark like that, Karma? What's going on? For his original form, I don't think anything has really changed. But I think most of the animations that have been changed are just with his transformation. But we'll take a look anyway.
Flames of enlightenment. Burn all senselessness.
Alright, nothing looks like it's different there. Still an awesome looking attack though, and it's still probably one of the coolest looking attacks in the game.
Let the agony be vanquished.
Man, just beautiful. It's still one of the coolest animation sets in the entire game. I really do like Karma's animations. They haven't changed much, but they still look awesome. Alright, but what is my final opinion on Karma? I think he's going to be one of those universal characters that really work with, well, pretty much every team. Karma is going to be one of those characters that are just a good tool on your team. He's just good. There's not a bad way to build Karma. There's just only good ways to build Karma because he's just so good. He can be great offensively, he can be great defensively. His skills just require, well, really anything. He is actually a solid universal character. He's a character you can use on pretty much any team, but there are some teams where he does work pretty strong in, and I think that's going to be Death CC teams and then Mage teams. Mage teams lack a really powerful tank, and since Karma does deal a decent amount of damage, and since he does deal magic damage, and since he is a universal character and he can increase block rate, which is going to be something mages actually need, I think he's going to be pretty powerful in teams like that. Now, is he going to be anything meta-breaking? I don't know about that, but he is going to be a very, very good tool for pretty much any team. He's going to be very useful on most teams, but I don't know if he's going to be anything meta-breaking. I just hope he stays in the game this time, unlike the last Karma that we had on the Korean version. He was just there and then he just vanished later in the game. Hopefully this one sticks and we get to see some interesting teams. But anyway, that is all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to leave a like, comment, and please do subscribe for more, because I do like to review every new 7 Heights hero that is released. And I love to play other games on this channel as well. I am starting a series on the Crypt on Mortal Kombat. I don't think I'm going to do anything with the story, though, because YouTube seems to hate it whenever I upload anything violent or anything at all like that. In the Crypt, it's mildly violent. There are some violence on there, yes, absolutely, there's going to be some violence in the Crypt, because hey, this is Mortal Kombat. But if I do anything else, I have a feeling YouTube is just going to hate me even more than what it already does. But anyways, that is all the time I've left for this video, my fellow gamers. Take it easy for me, alright? And please do have a blessed day. Bye.